Joel Carter, Mississippi Senator District 49. Harrison County is the place where he is from. Good morning, Joel. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Paul. I'm doing great.
It's good to talk to you. I mean, things calmed down a little bit after the session. Siney died?
They did, and it was a big sigh of relief for everyone to get out of Jackson. That is for sure. It was a little intense those last 2 weeks.
See, you were born here, so it's not the first time you got out of Jackson.
That's right.
So, but before we get to the event and where you went, I got to ask you this, because you're in real estate, is that right?
I am.
What is going on, man? I mean, the housing prices are just at a 15-year high. Building a house, and tell me a little bit about the inside of this as far as lumber is concerned.
Well, I mean, it's simple economics, supply and demand. Right now, there's no inventory out there, so the prices continue to soar. And then, as far as lumber cost goes, I can't come up with an explanation as to why that lumber is so high. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I mean, everything's is in short supply. You can drive by a car lot. There's no cars on the lot. I've heard of stories where friends have bought brand new trucks and they've been sitting at the shop for 3 months because they can't get a simple part shipped in.
Jeez.
There's nobody working. Me, myself, my dad is partners in a resort, and they were short-staffed housekeeping. I went and helped them make beds one Sunday to flip the hotel. So, I mean, it's every sector of the economy you look, people are just not working.
Every bill that's being proposed, I don't know if you heard the one I mentioned just a few moments ago, talking about $2,000 from some of the mod squad or the odd squad asking, putting forth bills of $2,000 a month for a year, then $1,000 on a permanent basis after that, which would cost trillions upon trillions of dollars, but apparently they have no idea what the hell they're doing. But you see an end to this, though? I mean, is it something that looks like it's going to be a curve and maybe slow down a little bit?
Well, with the Democrat Party, you never know what's up their sleeve. I mean, right now, all they're concerned about is winning, and they know if they can just keep on providing this free income, people don't have to work. They're hoping that's how they're going to secure votes. I mean, there's going to be a trickle-down effect. We're ruining the whole generation and it's not just the money that's being pumped into the economy with the COVID and the distance learning. I mean, we've got a whole generation of kids that, I mean, my son did not do good with the distance learning. I had to send him off to a preparatory school that gives more one-on-one instruction, and a lot of people don't have the means to be able to do something like that. But, I mean, there's a whole generation that's being ruined by the actions of the Democrats in D.C. right now, and it's very disgusting.
You got to wonder if we can make it 4 years on this one, but hopefully in the midterm something will happen. And the only good news this morning, or some of the good news this morning, is what happened over the weekend in Texas with the Republicans taking 2 seats there, which is certainly good news. Look, you had a heck of a. When did this happen that you went down to play golf?
So yesterday, Lindsey Graham had a fundraiser at Trump International. And my father's a very big Republican donor, so I was blessed to be able to have an opportunity to play. We dragged Secretary Watson on with us. And
was that a mistake? No. Be honest. Was that a mistake?
I can tell you that boy can pound the ball. I asked him what the Secretary of State does, because I might need to run for that next. So, but it was great. We got to play with Lindsey, and President Trump played in the group in front of us. And then we were able to sit down and have lunch with President Trump and Senator Graham. And, I mean, it was just a great experience. President Trump is still very, very unhappy with the election results. And when you look at the lawsuits going on in the various states, he's got a legitimate argument as to voter fraud. But then you have to sit back and think, is it worth trying to overturn an election, or is it worth getting the Republican base fired up and getting their act together and making sure that legitimate people are voting? And we're blessed to be from a state where we have voter ID. President Trump was him and Secretary Watson had some very great conversation. He was very, very proud of how our voter ID and how we handle elections in the state of Mississippi, and wishes that would happen in some of these other states. But all around was a great time, great experience.
Yeah, he was a guy as president that we really got close to through Cindy Hyde-Smith, through a lot of people, through Governor Bryant, and he really had this affinity for the state of Mississippi. And the other thing, too, is, and since you sat down and talked with him, you probably know this. I'm just guessing, but it's one of those situations when he sees things going on in the Biden administration, you could look at it and say, man, I'm getting some satisfaction because I told you so, but I don't think he does it. I think he looks at it and says, man, I feel for this country, and I want to get back in there, and I want to make sure we turn it back around.
He loves this country, I will tell you that, and you're spot on. He's not playing the I told you so.
Yeah.
He's basically saying you all have got to get out. You can get the Republican base fired up, get involved in your local elections, make sure that he brought up the fact that the Democrats had people at all the different polls and basically were handling the election process, and Republicans were sitting on their hands. And so he just said that the Republican Party's got to get more involved. And I mean, when I sit back and think about it, I think that the majority of Republicans thought he was just going to be a shoo-in for a second term because they brought Biden up, but they didn't show out. So they didn't show. When I say they didn't show out, they didn't show out to help.
Yeah.
I mean, even in my district, we were shorthanded in poll workers and various different sectors of the election process. But I mean, he definitely is not sitting back laughing. I mean, he gave multiple examples yesterday of things that he did while he was in office and why he did them. And he doesn't think like a politician. He's not a politician at all. I mean, some of the things he said, I kind of sat back and was like, wow, I can't believe he said that because he's not a politician and he's a businessman. So
I wonder if another businessman will ever be able to, certainly not a Republican, maybe a Democrat, but a private sector guy probably can't play this game because certainly if you want to do what he did, you cannot buck the deep state. Marco Rubio had a very good interview last week.
Senator, could you run for president in 2024 if President Trump is a candidate? I know this is a hypothetical, and could you run against President Trump? He just endorsed you. He's, they say he's the head of the party, essentially, de facto. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think my view on that is that President Trump is the most popular and most influential Republican in America. I think he'll still be that in 22 and in 24. And if he decides to run for president and for the nomination, he's going to be the party's nominee, and that's the way I would view it. Again, he hasn't made that decision. It's still a long way off down the road. But if Donald Trump decides to run for president in 2024 again, he's going to be the Republican nominee. And I think almost everyone that I've talked to would agree with that.
Yeah. So having a chance to sit down and talk to him in person, Senator Joel Carter, Mississippi Senator, District 49, Harrison County. You think he'll run again?
I think Senator Rubio was right on point. He didn't commit, but he is highly involved in the Republican Party in all the races right now. The races that you mentioned in Texas, the congressman that died, his wife ran. He's been highly involved in that. Whenever he endorses, I don't think but only two candidates have lost those elections.
Absolutely,
and you see, when he endorses it, I mean, it's a drastic increase in points.